Welcome to Second Listen Saturday on the Parenting Roundabout podcast, where we share some fun moments from a past episode for your weekend listening pleasure. Look for new episodes every Monday through Friday.
You know, you definitely hear more about that these days, about couples who are choosing to not be married, but also live in the same residence or the same vicinity for the, you know, either for financial reasons, for the sake of the children. But there's new and different approaches to separating from your spouse. But that's not what this conversation is about. This actually made me think about the opposite and staying with your spouse and the amount of work it takes to not split up.
Having a bad week there, are we, Nicole?
A couple weeks. But no, really, I mean, all of us, I'm guessing, we haven't actually talked about how many years we've been married, but I think all of us have been in fairly long-term marriages thus far. We're coming up on our 24th, I believe, wedding anniversary. Terry, where are you at?
27.
If you want to mention it. 27? Catherine, you're up there too, right? You're
not as long as you guys. It'll be 17 this year.
Well, you know, still, I mean, those are pretty, considering, you know, I don't even know what the divorce rate is and at what year, but
we've stuck with it.
Just from my informal observation, I think we're doing pretty okay on the longevity scale of marriage. So yeah, but it definitely without a lot of work, and that's kind of what we want to talk to one another about this week. And how are we doing it? Like, I mean, it's not easy. And I tell my daughter this every day, because not that she's even close to marriage, but she's in that kind of dating phase and or wanting to date phase. And you know, I don't know, even though we've talked to her a lot about this myth of the perfect romance.
Yeah.
I also remind her that, hon, it's going to take some effort on your part as well. You can't just expect him to be the one to do all the work in the relationship. So yeah, that's what we're talking about this week. I guess, you know, first of all, let's sort of just backtrack and talk about what had we wish we had known as newlyweds that we can give. What kind of advice or what kinds of things do you wish you had known as a newlywed that you didn't know?
Advice, or how do you make a marriage work? I asked my husband that when I knew we were having this conversation today. I said, what do you think is the secret to a good marriage? And his answer was, don't have too many interactions with each other. And, you know, this is said by my generally shy and not real outgoing husband. So I get it from his point of view. But I had actually been thinking along the same lines that, you know, the cliche is that all the things of daily life will drive you apart. On the other side, though, I also feel like sometimes the many, many, many distractions of raising kids and keeping a house and working jobs can be helpful. So, you know, it keeps you from focusing on what's going on in your relationship. Sometimes I think that can be a good thing.
The fact that he doesn't pick up his socks every day.
Yes. Because there are too many other things to do.
So is that something that you have always done, or is that something that you've learned over time, or that he's realized over time? Or
yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's never been a big interaction guy. So, and, you know, I knew that going in. But, you know, I think sometimes having something else to focus on is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I certainly feel the desire for interactions more frequently, I think, than he does. And he's mastered the art of, when I get mad, not engaging and just waiting till I burn myself out. And then, you know, then I apologize and then it's all over. And then he doesn't have to be involved at all. From his point of view, that's a go-to marital strategy that drives me crazy at the time, but in retrospect is probably
it kind of
wise.
is working. You can see that it's working.
Yeah, it does work. You know, I hate it for that hour or two when I'm furious. But afterwards, it's like, you know what? If we had engaged, things would have been said, and that probably would have been bad. So it's really just as well. You don't always have to air out all the dirty laundry every time.
Right away.
Yes, yes, it's good. His is the equivalent of the write the angry email and then put it in your draft folder and come back in a day. You will find that you really don't need to say all those things.
Yeah. Oh, and that's totally the opposite of the advice that I got from some
Yes.
well-meaning people in my life who said, never go to bed angry, never go to bed on a fight.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's okay to give one another breathing room.
I think that is very true. Yeah, you don't always have to engage in those things,
Yeah.
You don't want to let it simmer and then be angry. But a lot of things that we get angry about in the moment are not in the greater scheme of things, the most important things.
Right.
And
Right.
another thing that we do, I think, to keep our marriage lively, and this is a particularly good when you have children of a certain age, inappropriate affection at all times of day.
Yes.
They love it, the kids.
Yeah. It's and it's fun for us, and it's mortifying for them.
Of
So
course.
that is something that we do quite a lot, possibly because I work at home. And
Yeah.
I'm always looking for procrastination. And when he's there, it's like, I'm going to go kiss my husband. That's a good thing to do. And
Your adult children are...
yes,
They're
my adult
thrilled.
children run screaming from the room and the dog barks at us. But, we keep that spark going.
Yeah. Good for you.
I highly recommend it, both for procrastination purposes and for
Catherine?
mortifying the children.
What do you do? How do you keep your marriage going, and what do you wish you had known as a newlywed?
I don't know. This is so hard, but I agree with Terry's husband that, I need the space sometimes. So, I think we've learned that over time, to just sometimes the backing off is the better strategy. So, and as far as, what advice we may have gotten or not gotten that we should have gotten, I don't know. I mean, I think you always hear about you should go out on dates and things and, make sure you keep doing that. And we have not been great about that, but whenever we do it, it does feel really good. So I think that's another one that you should, try to do.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I don't like feeling guilty when I don't do it either.
Yeah, that's true. To me, the best part of going out on dates, and this is again once your parents, is being able to look at other people at other tables wrestling with kids and going,
Yeah.
They're not.
hey, we don't have to
That's
worry
not
about
me.
that tonight. Let's give them judgy looks, shall we?
Yeah.
That's funny.
But yeah, finding the time for that is nearly impossible.
Right. And I always, when my kids were little, I really just hated, the whole getting a babysitter and all of
Yes.
all of that
Yeah.
stuff. And
It puts pressure on the evening
it puts,
that is not
right.
helpful.
And it's like another task for me to do.
Exactly.
Right.
So we had some friends who did a babysitter on retainer thing. And actually I did that
Yeah.
when I was in my 20s and living in New York City. I was the every Saturday night babysitter. And then there's no planning it, you're just it's
That's
a
a good
done
idea.
deal. And then, the babysitter knows the kids and you don't have to spend half an hour giving instructions. It's just okay, we're out of here. So
Never heard about that.
that would have been a good idea.
Yeah.
In retrospect.
Yeah, I have a combination of things. I mean, I totally agree with Terry that space helps.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with Terry's husband that less interaction is better in many respects.
I'm
For
sure he
most
said
of-
it with love.
But for most of my marriage, my husband's traveled for work.
Yeah.
So
Oh, well,
he's spent a good portion of our marriage being away for a week here and there, which has certainly helped diffuse a lot of issues. Because when he's not around, it makes me appreciate him more.
Yeah.
So maybe sending your husband on his merry way for
Yeah.
a few weeks out of the year. I think, and laughter. We always
Yes.
try and we have lots of
Definitely.
inside jokes and
Yeah.
lots of laughter and lots of not practical jokes, but just things that we can just
Mutually agreed upon teasing is
mutually
nice.
agree. Yeah, I think I was telling my son and his girlfriend just even, a month or so ago, I said, even if it's just been the worst possible situation, sometimes we've just managed to laugh, and
Yes.
it's brought us out of whatever we were in, which leads me to my next question about marriages. Have you, in your marriage, overcome any sort of serious or major obstacle that really took a lot of work and really either put a strain on your marriage or brought you closer together? Is there anything that you've overcome, and how did you do that?
I mean, I'd say in our marriage, it was probably infertility and going through all the attempts to get pregnant, which is a terrible and laughable and horrifying procedure. And then coming to a point where we said, you know what, we don't want to go any further with this, and then looking to adoption, which also wasn't easy. We went to various agencies in the U.S. and got our hopes up and got our hopes dashed. We would get pictures of kids, we would fall in love with them, and then would say, no, those aren't for you. And that was a really difficult procedure. And then going to Russia, I mean, my husband is not world traveler guy. For him to go to a foreign country and then get stuck there for a month was so far out of his wheelhouse. It was a little more comfortable to me. I had done a little more traveling, but it was still, it wasn't a pleasure trip. It was incredibly stressful. We didn't know from one day to the next if we were going to get our kids. We had, money strapped to our bodies. We had, it was just, the whole thing was like a month of incredible stress in a strange place where the people didn't speak your language and your whole life was on the line, basically.
Yeah.
And so that was a really difficult time. That was a lot of stressful decisions. And of course I felt guilty for most of them that and I was also felt the burden of, because I was the one who was going to find the adoption thing and all that. And I was the one who was pushing for one thing or another. So that, that was really difficult. But when we came out of it on the other side, not only did we have our wonderful children, but we had, as mentioned previously, just a ton of distractions. From there on, it was all good. We were just on a one foot in front of the other, do the thing immediately in front of you course for really still to now.
Yeah.
So we made it through. It was a difficult time and an extremely stressful ending to it. But, I think it did make us stronger. We will always have that in our background to remember back on and go, can you believe we survived that month? Much less all the things that led up to it.
Yeah.
And it was, that was something.
Because was it a several year process to get from
it
A
was.
to B?
We wound up going for our adoption in 94. I guess we were gone the entire month of November of 1994.
Wow.
So we got married in 1990 and we waited a year to start trying. So there was probably 3 years of increasing stress over infertility and then increasing investigation of adoption. It was very difficult at that time to adopt a baby in New Jersey. There was just, like a 5-year waiting list. And if you could even get on the waiting list, which you couldn't necessarily.
Right.
And then we went to the Wendy's place, they showed the Wendy's restaurants, the national, but that didn't work out. So it was about a 3-year process to finally get us there, with, great highs and lows of stress and upset and trauma.
Do you think it's any easier today, or is it?
I really don't know.
Not sure.
I mean, one of the things was at that time, they wouldn't place kids of a different race with parents of a different race. That has changed.
Right.
So that made it difficult because we would see kids who needed a home and they would say, no, we won't consider you for that.
Right.
And also, I think people thought we were just incredibly naive and stupid. So if we wanted a kid with disabilities, they were like, oh, no, that's not for you. Although we finally, when we went to Russia, it was like, oh, you want to take these? Absolutely. Here you go. So that was, it has changed somewhat, but I'm sure it's still, it's still a traumatic procedure. And it's just too, you read every day about people getting pregnant who don't want their kids. And then to get a kid yourself, you have to open up your life to strangers and let them come into your house and look around and ask you incredibly personal questions. And then still maybe look at you and go, yeah. So that is traumatic also. Just to
that's
feel
strange,
like
especially in the first 2 years of marriage.
Yes. Yes.
to have to work through all that.
Yeah, and I had looked into it before we got married because I didn't want to go into marriage and, without him knowing about this, and had a doctor tell me that they thought it would work out and then it didn't. So, a lot of guilt and, so yeah, that was tough. That was tough. But we survived it, and, we had a good relationship all through it. I don't think there was ever any trouble in our marriage over it other than just me having feelings. But he was a rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he did get pretty sick in Russia, I think, just because it was such a shock to his poor system. Everything about it.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty remarkable thing that we did.
Yeah, it really was.
Wow. How about you, Catherine? What's your...
Well, I mean, not as dramatic as that, I would say. Didn't have to spend a month in a foreign country, scared.
Man.
And yeah.
Yeah.
But I just think the hardest points for us have been having to make big decisions, Are we going to move from one city to another? Are we going to, buy an apartment or a house? Should he take this job or that job? Should I quit this job or that job? Should we have another kid? All of those things, probably should have been discussed in more detail beforehand. And they weren't when you get married in the Catholic Church, you have to go to these pre-Cana, classes. And we did the one day Blitz version instead of the once a week for 6 weeks or whatever. We just went for one day.
Yeah.
And it really is a good thing. You could learn a lot about each other. You could really set up a good base for your marriage if you both take it seriously. And let's just say that one of us
there is the rub.
didn't. So, I think that would have been a time and a place where you could have said I for sure want, at least 4 kids or something. Not that I was feeling that way, but you know what I mean? You could have, that's the point of that exercise, is to have some of those big conversations beforehand. And, I think when you're in the midst of planning a wedding, you're probably not going to be you know what? Never mind. This isn't going to work. But at the same, but you could just kind of begin having those conversations, and they're hard, so you could start having them in a time and a place where the stakes are a little bit lower. So I think that those, because those were the points where things got hard,
Yeah. We had the same, marriage boot camp too, being married in the Catholic Church. It was a weekend though.
Yeah,
we had a little bit more time. And we took most of it seriously. A few pieces of advice we left behind, such as Jesus being in the bedroom with you at every moment in your marriage. So that one we just kind of, but for some people that's, that works for them to take that piece of advice with them. But, that really helped us, that kind of pre-marriage encounter, they called it, where we had a chance to talk through things and work through things. And I think that helped. I mean, one of our biggest obstacles, as most people know, is moving here, coming here. And the reason we came here was even just as challenging. It's because my husband's business was near bankruptcy. So that in itself is a big challenge, having to go through a big financial strain. And so it was a good couple of years of financial stress and then moving and, which they say are pretty high on the list of causes for divorce. And let me tell you.
You can see it, huh?
I can totally see it. So, but I think that those earlier conversations and experiences, those the laughter, I think those are all the things that keep you together in the end, right?
Yes.
So they're the things that bind you. And I think it's important
Yeah.
to remember that.
Yeah. I think I was just thinking when you guys were talking about those big decisions, I wonder if when my husband says not too many interactions, what he means is just go make all the decisions. I really don't want to talk about it. Sometimes I think that's it. You know what you want,
Just
wife,
go ahead.
and you're just going to try to pester me into
Yeah.
saying the thing that you want. So just go do it.
Just do it anyway.
But I want, I want him to want to do it. Not because I want him to, but just because he does.
Right,
But I
but
want
you
him to
can't-
want the thing that I want.
Yeah, and you can't.
Read my mind, man. We've been married 27 years.
So true.